This is TWiT.
Last week's topic, as we know, was careers in bug hunting. While we were delivering that podcast last Tuesday, and although we were primarily talking about HackerOne, I mentioned Zerodium as an admitted alternative cash-out source if someone found a particularly tasty and important zero-day flaw. Important meaning, in something that like where it really matters, and like in a named mainstream product that would allow somebody exploiting the flaw, we won't characterize them, to gain some information that they're trying to get. As it happens, while we were delivering that podcast, Zerodium was upping the ante. They tweeted, quote, "We're paying up to $500,000 for zero-day exploits targeting VMware, ESXi," and they said parens vSphere, or Microsoft Hyper-V, and allowing guest-to-host escapes. In other words, VM escapes, to get to the underlying OS. They said the exploits must work with default configs, be reliable, and lead to full access to the host. Contact us. And then there was a link in the tweet. And then they signed off Zerodium at Zerodium March 5th, 2019. $500,000 for something that someone discovers in Hyper-V or in VMware. So it turns out Zerodium does, and has in the past, done what they call acquisition raids, offering limited time increased incentives for classes of flaws they have a particular interest in obtaining, either, I presume, to balance out their exploit portfolio. And of course, as we know, these flaws are being found and patched on an ongoing basis. So there is some churn in their portfolio. And I would love to be on the inside of the contract that they have with the purchaser of one of these, to get a sense just for what it looks like. Like, clearly they're paying a lot for it, and they're not wanting it to be disclosed. It is in the interest of the purchaser of the flaw who wants to exploit it not to disclose it, so that they can use it against presumably in targeted attacks. This is nothing you're going to spray all over the internet, because it'll be found immediately by all of the different security services that are looking for anything like this. So, and presumably the purchaser, if Zerodium is paying $500,000, we don't know how large the other side market is, how many people are purchasing these, but they're going to be paying a pretty penny. We do know that it's typically governments and intelligence services of governments that are paying.
So that's how this economically works with both Zerodium and Hacker Lab, is that they're a marketplace. They're reselling it on to somebody else.
No, HackerOne is not a reseller.
Zerodium is. Oh.
Yes. HackerOne, for example, would be contracted by GE.
I get it.
To be like the middleman to handle all the mechanics and payment and terms and conditions. So the idea would be is GE, being a responsible provider of software, recognizes that the best way to get their bugs found is to offer a bounty. So there, HackerOne is a contracted middleman but Zerodium is very different. Zerodium is, they're selling them to the dark side. arguably.
Got it.
Anyway, so they do these periodic, what they call acquisition raids, to increase the incentive, either to balance out their portfolio. Maybe, as I said, some of the things in their portfolio are killed because they're patched, or perhaps they have a customer who is making a particular request. And so again, they're standing between the security side, us, the public, and the backside, and we don't know who is, like what the terms and conditions or what anything about the interaction on the other side of this. So maybe they have a customer who says, okay, we really have a need for a Hyper-V 0-day. So we're willing to give you a $250,000 if you can get one to us. And so Zerodium turns around and says, well, we can resell that several times over. So let's bump the bounty for this to $500,000, knowing that, $500,000, that would be some significant incentive. It's not like, oh yeah, we'll pay you $10,000 if you stumble over a browser escape or something. It's like, okay. So you can imagine that's going to have an effect. In this acquisition raid, they bumped the payout for a high quality, solid and stable hypervisor exploit from what it had been $200,000 to $500,000. ZDNet, in their coverage, asked Zerodium's CEO what the deal was. He replied by email saying, "Our new payout for hypervisors will last for a couple of months, and then we'll decide if we reduce it or keep it high, depending on the number of acquisitions we make." And that kind of gave me a chill. It's like, whoa, the number of acquisitions, suggesting, not one, but, oh, look, we got 5 new 0 days. Anyway, Zerodium has previously held such acquisition raids for 0 days in iOS, in instant messaging apps, in the Tor browser, aka in the Firefox version of the Tor browser, in Linux, in Adobe Flash Player, in routers and USB thumb drives. And okay, so the fact that they've done it for the Tor browser, that sort of gives you a clue about who's on the other side buying them, because they're not going to be bumping the bounty unless there's some reason to believe that they've got a buyer or buyers of these specific things. So what's really going on here, believe it or not, is it's becoming a bidding war, and Zerodium was being outbid. Last summer, we talked about this at the time, Microsoft made the decision, and I salute them for this, to buy up its own flaws when they upped the ante for Hyper-V bugs to $250,000. So Microsoft has been and is officially on the record saying, we will purchase a bug in Hyper-V for $250,000. Well, if that's the case, first of all, that outbids Zerodium and other exploit buyers who are only offering only $200,000. And, whereas selling a powerful 0 day to Zerodium would leave me feeling a bit compromised, I would feel 100% great selling Microsoft one of their own bugs. That would be wonderful for $250,000. Right?
Well, yeah, it's a win-win. Everybody wins, including Microsoft Windows users.
Yes. So, and you're just selling Microsoft their own bug. Here you go. I'll be happy to take $250,000 for telling you about a problem I found in your stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's 100% cool. But Zerodium's CEO told ZDNet, quote, "Microsoft's bounty for Hyper-V exploits is very attractive for researchers. However, he said VMware is not paying anything to zero-day hunters. We have decided to fill this gap, as he put it.
Oh, they're such nice guys.
Yeah, isn't that nice? We're going to fill that gap because nobody's paying anything for those problems in VMware. He says, and we've been paying $200,000 for such exploits. And he says, we've acquired many of them so far. He said, however, we've recently observed an increase in demand from customers, and we have decided to increase the bounty to $500,000 to outbid vendors and all existing buyers.
Wow.
So, specifically saying to outbid Microsoft, to double what Microsoft has been offering, Microsoft being an existing buyer of problems in their own product. So Zerodium claims that the company's hungry customers are government and law enforcement agencies, and these do seem like government-level purchase prices. So again, we don't know how big the market is on the dark side, but there obviously is one if they're willing to pay $500,000 for a Hyper-V or VMware ESXi escape to the host. And, the idea that we'll see how many we get, then we'll decide if we want to, keep them coming at $500,000 each or drop it back down to be, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they were offering it for $250,000 and Microsoft was offering it for $250,000, I'm selling it to Microsoft because, selling it to Zerodium gives me a creepy feeling. I mean, Zerodium gives me a creepy feeling. But again, I mentioned them last week because if we had somebody who decided to make a career out of finding problems, and they did find a problem that was significant, I couldn't fault a bug hunter for selling it to the highest bidder. That's not fair, really. But if it's your bread and butter, I mean, if it's not something you just stumble upon, and again, $500,000 is $500,000. So, wow. Anyway, we're now having a bidding war, is the bottom line, between companies, at least in the case of Microsoft, who is saying, yeah, we'd rather buy them ourselves than. I mean, look, from Microsoft's standpoint, look at it. Zerodium was offering $200,000 until now. Microsoft said, okay, we'll see you and up you $50,000. So Microsoft was at $250,000, being willing to outbid Zerodium for flaws in their own software, feeling that that's better than allowing Zerodium to purchase them for $200,000 and resell them who knows how many times to who knows who, because there's no reason to believe that these things aren't going offshore. So Microsoft, I think, did the right thing. Is Microsoft going to outbid Zerodium? I don't know. Anyway, interesting to see what a weird market has developed around flaws. And boy, there's money in them flaws.